Welcome back, guys, to Collectors with Cards Drinking Coffee. Take two, I guess. I didn't record our first little part of the conversation, so we're going to have to dive right back into it. Today we have a special guest, as they all are, but somebody that I've recently started talking with a little bit more. Someone that I was introduced by through a Leonhardt video, actually, which we'll hopefully talk about a little bit here. But today we have Nate, aka Sub F. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. How about you?
Doing great, doing great. Well, I'm going to be paying a little bit closer attention now to make sure that this is continuing to be recorded. Uh, as I think we went about 10 minutes in or so, 15 minutes in, and now I think it's gone. Um, but let's dive right into getting to know you a little bit, as we do with all my guests. You're 29, you're a couple years older than I am, from Texas. What was the thing that got you started back in 1999 for Pokemon?
So when I was a kid, I got in through the game, and me and my brother shared a Game Boy, and I got Pokemon Blue as a Christmas present. So I played that for a while, and then that's how I got introduced to the card game. I We used to go to Toys R Us all the time, which now I realize that Toys R Us just has ridiculous prices, but as a kid, I would see like these Pokemon packs, and I really wanted some. And then one year, I think it was for my birthday, my mother got me a few packs, and that's what got me into the card side of it.
Okay. Um, so the video game there, blue version, you just had the one between you and your brother, a younger brother, I assume, or old was it
Yeah,
old? Yeah.
it was pretty much just me playing it because I did not like to share, especially since it was a game where you just had that one profile and you
hmm
couldn't have multiple accounts.
hmm Yeah.
But he would always try to play.
Yeah. I was that way with well, I guess with Animal Crossing, you could only have the one town, and me and my siblings playing together. I always wanted to be the one to get the fossils and all that. So I had a kind of similar similar understanding with that. Um, but so the trading card game that got introduced to you through the cards themselves, or through in our earlier conversation, you said you got introduced through the video game, the trading card game on Game Boy.
Well, so I actually had some trading cards before I played the video game,
All right.
Pokemon trading card game.
Mm-hmm.
But I just liked that they were Pokemon things. Like I didn't particularly know that, there was like a game that you played and instructions because instead of buying like a starter deck like most of the kids did,
Mm-hmm.
I just ended up buying packs
Okay.
because it was just cool that the packs had, the base starters on them. And I never knew how to play the game for maybe half a year until I was able to get the trading card game, and then I learned, oh, there's actually like a game aspect to it. And that's when I started playing a little bit just with some friends, and I'm sure we broke all sorts of rules. Like
Yeah.
anytime there's a Japanese card, it was whoever can make up the most powerful effect. Like, yeah, play this card and like draw half my deck.
Yeah. Did you ever play in any tournaments back then?
Oh no. Back then, we just didn't have a ton of time when I was a kid, so I didn't really travel to tournaments. It was more of, Asian household, so I studied a lot.
Okay.
Uh, took like Chinese classes and stuff, but it was a lot of fun to do in school
hmm
and on the playground. That's mostly what I did after school in the lunchroom.
Yeah. Yeah. Typical. Yeah. We were all that way. I think when I was a kid, the most or the more the things that we did was like play the game together more so than the cards. Like we would do trades and battles, and whoever like was restart or something, and who could beat Brock first. Like that was what we did when I was a kid. Or with like silver and gold, it was all right. Race to the point where we get where you can catch the legendary dogs, and then first one to catch one wins. And we would just mess around kind of
Oh,
like that. So yeah, I never really got into the competitive scene. Um, just like follow my brother around to a Magic tournament or two, from what I remember. Um, but well, the fact
It's
that you,
funny.
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say it's funny because when I had the game, the biggest limiting factor was the batteries. They were expensive, and I couldn't afford the batteries as a kid.
Okay.
So I would just like play as fast as I could through the game, and just I think I only ever got one Pokemon up to level 100.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it was funny because the battery was like the big limiting factor. Else I would have logged so many more hours on those games.
Yeah, we learned pretty quick, and I think my parents did with getting the charging cord or the rechargeable batteries pretty early on. Because yeah, they saw us just zooming through batteries, and my dad wanted to save some money. um,
Yeah, I think we got those around maybe silver and gold
okay,
time. But my mother did not have any rechargeable batteries when red and blue and yellow were out.
yeah,
So,
yeah, that was great. And they started introducing the lights so that you could plug it in and play at night, and it became a problem playing that stuff nonstop. But
yeah, I remember the backlit screen was
oh my
revolutionary.
god, the game was it the Game Boy SP? What a great
Yeah,
invention! That was my
like
favorite handheld
I would
device.
be riding in the car and trying to play my Game Boy, and then the sun would come out, and I'd be like trying to like jiggle the Game Boy so I could catch it in a way that I could still see the screen.
Yeah, yeah, great times. But speaking of video games, you recently got back a pretty incredible grading submission from WADA relating to Pokemon, of course. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I recently got into video games. Uh, was maybe a year ago. I started looking for some of the Pokemon ones, and after buying a majority of the games for Game Boy up to Game Boy Advanced, I actually decided to grade some of them and sent them in. Some of the grades were insane. Like I couldn't believe it that day that they completed and we went over them just as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'm super excited to get those back. There's some that I think I want to upgrade on condition, but super happy to have them. And it's something that I never thought I would have any sort of attachment to, but holding the sealed games in my hand,
Yeah,
that really changed my opinion.
yeah, that's something that I've pushed off for so long, and now got to the point where it doesn't mean that like I can't pay that much for a game. I mean, video games itself collecting like is somewhat recently started to really pick up steam. I don't think it's at a point yet where it's completely out of reach for people because you got WADA that came in to start doing grading, but Pokemon is just a whole nother animal, and the prices on those are they're well deserved, but they're so high now. It's very hard to buy in at this point.
Yeah. So, I mean, video games are interesting because they're not like cards. When you think of a video game, it doesn't, like a collectible doesn't just come to mind.
Hmm.
We've been influenced in the way that we've seen like baseball cards, basketball cards. So, and anytime we see a card, it feels like a collectible.
Hmm.
Whereas video games have always been something that you open, you play, you enjoy.
Hmm.
And I feel like there's so many like complete in box collectors because and well, when I was a kid, I had to sell my old games to buy the new ones. But
Yeah.
if I had the ability, I would have kept all the games because it would have been cool to go back and play some of them. And
Right.
I think that's where video game collecting started. And the video game market, I just right now it's getting deeper, but there's just not a lot of supply on the sealed side.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people would open the games and they didn't really have any value until just maybe a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the way older stuff I'm sure has had value, but Pokemon games were I remember seeing them for like 400 or 500 on eBay sealed.
Yeah.
Uh, and then just in the past 2 years, that's just dried up.
Yeah.
So
I
it's so
remember passing on that price, passing on 1,000, passing on 2,000, and now yeah they're gone. can't even find them anymore. I mean, I think, I mean, you'll see. Yeah, we talked about how the majority of sales with at least sealed games has been on auction sites like Heritage. You know, there's very little data on eBay right now. Um, but the grades that you got on what I think crystal, red, blue, and like emerald were near perfect and probably the highest graded copies in existence, if not tied with the highest copies in existence.
Yeah, the Crystal was the highest grade. It got a 9.8 A plus plus, and then Emerald was a 9.8 A plus. The red and the other ones were a little bit lower, but for my personal collection, I'm just looking for grades that are 9 and above with at least an A plus seal.
Mm-hmm.
So the red is fine. The blue and the yellow, I think I want to switch out. But video games are. It just fascinates me because people didn't really think of it as a collectible.
Right.
There are video game collectors, but it hasn't been like a huge cross section with the Pokemon collectors. Like I feel like a lot of people played the games and they want to go back and play the games. There's been so many ROMs out there, or just the carts sell really well for the Pokemon games, so people can go back and play or emulators. Uh, but it's just recently that the actual Pokemon games and grading
Yeah.
sealed copies has exploded.
Yeah, I think it was inevitable. I mean, actually, PokeRev got started in Pokemon with buying and selling, replacing batteries on the old cartridges. That's like, that was his introduction of the business side of Pokemon. Um, and I remember just from my, I don't know when it was, but earlier memories of like seeing TV shows, before Netflix, of weird collections or big collections. And some of them were video game related, but they were all open. It was a guy had every NES game, every Sega Genesis game, like everything. And he would just be able to go grab it and play it. He was never, I don't remember seeing any sealed games in this guy's collection, but he had the 89 Worlds or whatever cartridge and all that, like that rare stuff, but no sealed game. So I think, yeah, it is kind of odd to think that it was never really looked in that aspect, but it makes sense. It's starting to make sense.
Yeah, but even from just a potential audience perspective, Pokemon is huge because I think the majority of people started with the video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's so many people who played the video games, not the card game. So while we have a very large uh, buyer pool in the card game right now, I think if video games starts becoming popular and collecting the sealed ones, those are going to see insane prices realized.
So a $75,000 crystal, that's a crystal version, uh, that's up on eBay right now. I think it's a nine. I think it's a 9.8. That's probably gonna hit that point eventually. I mean, I
Yeah, I mean
what?
everything's gonna hit that point with time.
Yeah,
So let's
yeah,
see what happens.
that's
You never
amazing.
know what happens next week in this current market.
And I think you're convincing me to still hop in and buy one of these sealed red versions at 5 or 10 grand. I'm probably gonna have to do that after this podcast.
I mean, it's also an important distinction that there's nothing wrong with collecting like complete in box games.
Right.
From a glance, like with a card, the seal it's more rare and it's harder to find one in good condition. But complete in box is the exact same box art,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks just as good in a water case displayed, and it's 1/10 of the price.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for a collectible to just display like complete in box is completely fine. There's no reason that it needs to be like $10,000 on a sealed version.
Right. I've had that similar thought with the cards actually, because one of my goals, and still is a goal, is getting a first edition base set box. Um, I mean, it was just as unattainable for me when I started as it is now. It's just the price point has another zero on it. Um, but I always like I got an empty box. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fill this thing up with empty packs. and I got super close, and then I realized, well, I kind of want to get 12 heavies in there to make it realistic, and that never really came to fruition. And I like to open stuff, and so I don't see that happening. But it's kind of a similar aspect of having an open version of a sealed box or of a Pokemon booster box, and like filling it up with packs or with cards or whatever, and putting it on your shelf because it has that aesthetic, that same aesthetic feel than a sealed uh, item would be.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because we've seen more sales of empty boxes than we
Mm-hmm.
ever have before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, some people are getting priced out of the sealed product, where I think I've seen empty boxes sell for like 20 or $30, which is super cheap. Like any Joe Schmo could go on eBay and buy, all of the WotC sets in empty boxes for, maybe 2 or 3 grand,
Mm-hmm.
with, base first being the most expensive.
Yeah, being two or three grand on its own now. Um, so let's go back in time again to the cards here. So um, you had base set just unlimited. Did you have or did you have first edition Shadowless stuff back then that you were aware of?
So in Houston, I didn't see any Shadowless or First Edition. I was able to trade for a Shadowless Blastoise, and that was kind of my second favorite thing in my collection at the time,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't even really consider it a collection, but I was just trying to complete all the Pokemon. And, that's actually the reason why I quit the Pokemon trading card game, because that Blastoise got stolen like a week or two after I traded for it.
Wow,
Uh,
that's a
Yeah,
little
and as a
unfortunate.
kid, that shock just kind of put me off on the trading card side of it.
So, well, if that was base set, did that happen pretty early on? Then did you get into? I mean, did you? I would assume Fossil in the Jungle because it was so quickly after the base. But did you get into the gym sets or the Neo sets before that happened?
So as a kid, I had base through Fossil in English
Mm-hmm.
and some Japanese rocket cards. And back then, my elementary did this fundraiser where there were different prizes, and you could buy these like little tickets for $1, and they basically drew the tickets, and you won prizes. That went on. That was for I think 2 months or 3 months, and the first place prize was this giant basket of Pokemon cards,
Mm-hmm.
and it had some Japanese packs in it. It had English packs in it. It had some like just random memorabilia like the is it top? No, it's not tops. The Tommy stuffed animals,
Oh yeah.
stuff like that. And back then, I would get $20 a week in spending money, and that was like for lunch as well as like everything else that I wanted. And a good amount of that money went to batteries, but uh, I would just bum lunch off of my friends for like that whole 2 month, 3 month period where this like fundraiser was going on. I just put every single dollar into this fundraiser. I was apparently a gambler as a kid. So
And you won it, I assume, or
yeah,
no?
I actually did win second place.
Okay.
First place was this like huge basket of stuff, and then second place wasn't Pokemon related,
Oh.
and so I was like devastated. And the teacher who was like in charge of running this, he knew that I was like putting in a lot into it. And I think I had the most tickets out of the whole school,
Oh wow.
but he felt so bad that he went and bought me a pack of like just base set
Wow.
Pokemon cards,
That's
and he gave it to me as like a consolation.
that's nice of him. I remember a similar setup at my elementary school, and I remember it very clearly that it was like it was the same thing. You would buy a raffle ticket, write your name on it, and put it in what item you wanted to get, and it was a leaf green. Uh, I think that was Game Boy Advance game, and this was well
Yeah.
after like I was done with Pokemon. A few years. I was into sports and all that, and I remember seeing it, and I honestly think if I had won that raffle, I would have it would have changed my Pokemon life, I guess. I would have been back into Pokemon more and like gotten back into the cards and probably done it a lot sooner than waiting for evolutions to come out. Um, so I lost that raffle. But now that I think of it, that raffle, if I won, could have changed my life. um, so what happened after the Shadowless Blastoise got stolen? Did you dive into Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, Dragon Ball Z?
So I actually quit the card game and I just played the video games for a couple years. I didn't actually play any other card games until high school. And my sophomore year of high school, one day, me and a friend were bored, and there was a card shop maybe 2 or 3 streets down. So we just walked over there, and they had a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament going on. So we started playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and that was the first time I had touched a card game in God, 10 years maybe.
Wow.
So
All right. So what what brought you back into Pokemon? Because you have, I mean, you're a pretty private person, but you have an incredible collection. From what we saw, I think in the Leonhardt video, what did you opened a first edition base set pack with him? I think you had just bought like a complete set, and the stuff that we see you go through your mail days here on Discord. You buy some incredible collections. So what was the thing that like first I guess brought you back into Pokemon, and when was it?
Uh, honestly, I didn't get into Pokemon till pretty late. It was, I think, 5 years ago.
Okay.
It's hard to remember like a specific month or year, but around 5 years ago, I used to be in a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments and just I played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh and bought and sold Yu-Gi-Oh.
Hmm.
But I was getting bored of that, and it was, I want to say toxic, but the community was very different
Hmm.
than the Pokemon community. Uh, and I saw some friends of mine that were playing Pokemon, and I decided to take a look. And then I started going down the rabbit hole of looking at more vintage stuff
Hmm.
and learning about all of the sets that I had missed. Like, I didn't even know Gold Stars existed.
Yeah.
Uh, I think at the time I was just bored, and someone came into the shop with a binder of a bunch of Charizards, and it was mostly like Flashfire, XY era, and I ended up buying that binder and going to a couple just local Pokemon events, and that's how I got back in.
Okay. Were you diving through YouTube and watching openings, or did you find E4? Like what was your source of like gathering this information of what happened that you
So
missed?
for me, I was on Verbank first,
Okay.
and I, well, not counting local, but it was at the local card shop, and then I got into the group Verbank, which I don't even know if it was called Verbank back then. But I did most of my stuff on Facebook, and I was never like a heavy YouTube watcher. So,
Hmm.
um, well, that's changed quite a bit these last couple of years. But
Yeah.
back then, I wasn't a heavy YouTube watcher, and I got into Pokemon, and then I went to China for a year to study.
Hmm.
So if you don't know, in China, they actually have Facebook blocked and
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah. What do they
And
have over there? Shoot. My roommate in college was um it was from China. I forget what was the what's the Facebook over there?
I don't remember what the Facebook is, but the YouTube is Youku.
Okay. It was like the
But
same name
yeah,
twice.
so
I can't. I'll think of it later probably. But all right, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, it was funny because I just gotten into Pokemon, and when I get into something, I like to dive really deep into it. I kind
Hmm.
of just immerse myself,
Hmm.
and I had such a hard time getting the connection, and I would have to VPN in to use Facebook. But the VPN was not stable, and it would be like a couple times a week I could get through.
Hmm.
But I was just buying some stuff online at that time. I had liquidated my Yu-Gi-Oh collection with other than just some collectibles that I had for myself. And I was just buying random stuff on Pokemon, like older stuff, and it was all through Facebook. So I was not in the US, and I just had my mother check some of the packages, and she didn't know anything about condition. So it was more of just, are the cards there?
Yeah. What was that Yu-Gi-Oh collection worth, if you don't mind me asking when you sold it?
I kind of pieced it out, but I think I probably got around 30, 40K for it.
Oh
This
wow.
was
That's
5 years ago.
okay, that's significant then. So you've had quite the collection. I mean, it sounded like you did it for a while, but that's a great starting point, I guess, 5 years ago for Pokemon. So while you were in China, was there any interest in buying Chinese cards or going to local shops there, or were you just doing Facebook?
Well, in China, there actually aren't any shops, and the only cards that are there are fake cards,
Hmm.
because Pokemon was banned in mainland China.
Oh,
So
well, I mean, there's the Chinese base set. The Unlimited's harder
yeah.
to find these days, right, than first edition.
Honestly, first edition is harder to find, but
Hmm.
Unlimited supposedly had the shorter print run.
Okay.
But that first edition Chinese and Unlimited Chinese base set were both only released in Taiwan and Hong Kong.
Oh, okay. So,
Mainland China never got the release, and that's why it's such a small amount that was printed because
yeah.
it catered specifically to two islands.
Okay. Wow. Well, I've never been able to go out to China myself. I almost set up a meeting out there for my old job, but I mean, you would think with China having the world's largest population, well, other than India, I guess, um, that the market for Chinese vintage Pokemon would be quite large. I haven't paid attention to it myself. Are you collecting that stuff? What's going on there?
So Chinese Pokemon is the main thing that I collect actually.
Okay.
Uh, the market's it's really interesting because in China, I don't know if you remember VCDs.
Mm-mm.
They were like cheap DVDs, but I used to go to China every single summer to visit my relatives, and you could always find these stacks of just like bootleg VCDs that had the Pokemon show bootlegged and then subbed into Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a kid, that's actually where I watched a lot of my Pokemon in Chinese, which the sound, it was terrible, but I could binge watch it in China versus in the US. I would always have to do homework and all of that stuff.
Right.
So that's kind of how I got started into Chinese Pokemon. Nowadays, there's not as many mainland collectors, but there are a lot of people who are interested in it.
Well, have you been
Uh,
doing that since day one, or is this the since it's the main thing? It's the main thing you're collecting now. Has it always been the main thing you've collected?
so I guess for the first like 2 or 3 years, I didn't really have any sort of direction.
Hmm.
I was looking for the older vintage stuff. I finished base set in like 2 weeks. I just bought a complete set.
Yeah.
Uh, I actually didn't even know first edition Shadowless existed at the time, so I just
Oh.
had bought the base unlimited set, and then I kind of dug from there, and eventually I completed everything up to Fossil in both first edition and unlimited. And I have this weird thing where once I complete something, I just throw it in a closet and I just don't look at it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, that's the right way to do it, honestly.
but then I lose interest in it. So for me, it's more of just the journey to complete it, and then I have no attachment to it anymore, which is odd.
Yeah.
Um, but eventually, I switched goals from collecting the vintage stuff that I didn't have as a kid to more of collecting the Chinese, and that happened in the last 3 years or so. Um, for the longest time, I didn't even know Chinese Pokemon had legitimate cards.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's where all the fakes come from. That's that terrible stigma. But are you? I mean, do you collect the sealed stuff, or is it just the cards? Are you doing PSA 10 sets? Are you doing binder sets? What's your strategy, or is it everything?
Uh, I collect everything except for the Chinese Pokepark promos.
Okay. Are those pretty
But I have
abundant?
sealed boxes. They're not abundant, but I don't like the fact that they come mostly from like three or four people.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. One of the
That's just
legendary dog gold
something has
stars.
just, yeah, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way because they hosted it in Taiwan back in '06. '05 was the Japan one, and all of the product was Japanese, like all of the plushes, the pins, they just brought over their leftover stock.
Hmm.
But they printed the promos in Taiwanese and some of the promotional stuff like posters. And it was a pretty large event. So I doubt they only printed, 50 or 100 copies of each of the promos. But we've only seen probably less than 50 copies of each surface.
Mm,
And it's mostly from the same couple people. So for me, that's just really off-putting. Like I don't know who has a stash or if someone just has a drawer full of thousands of them, but
yeah.
I just also never really had any desire to collect those. But I collect sealed booster boxes. I have unlimited first edition ones. I collect the uncut sheets.
Oh,
I collect sets raw and graded. My personal goal right now is to finish Chinese based first edition hollows in PSA 10, and that is just has been an impossible goal.
yeah.
I have five of the cards in PSA 10,
Mm.
but half of the set isn't even in the pop report. Well, they're in the pop report, but there's only nines, eights, seven, sixes. There's zero tens, and then the other half of the set is like pop one to pop four. I don't think there's a single thing that's more than pop four
Well,
for Chinese.
I could be wrong, but didn't Leonhardt just get like 4 or 5 boxes?
So
Or was that a different language?
funny you mentioned that 'cause I was the one who kind of brokered that deal for him. I found collection that I wanted to buy,
Hmm.
and at the time I didn't have. I could have bought the whole collection, but it would have been financially irresponsible.
I'm
So
still doing that, but yeah.
yeah, so I ended up splitting the collection with him, and he got two Chinese-based first edition boxes, which he opened one, and I
Hmm.
was very happy that he did. He pulled all three starters and graded them with BGS, and I
Hmm.
believe they all got nines.
Well, you
So,
better buy that other box from him and start ripping.
well, I have boxes. I refuse to open them.
Yeah.
With Chinese first edition, or with Chinese base in general, the hollow is the first card in the pack.
Oh, okay.
So the hollow tends to have a lot of wear.
Yeah.
It's edge wear on the front, scratching, things like that. Also, centering is a huge issue.
Hmm.
And so I've opened four boxes,
Hmm.
three first edition and one unlimited box, and I've graded one PSA 10 out of
Wow.
all four boxes.
Wow. That's unfortunate. I've opened a
Yeah.
lot,
Well,
but
I'm
none of that.
all those though.
Hmm. Okay. Well, so this connection with Leonhardt, and again, that's what I kind of started this off was that I remember seeing you in a video with him. Um, you had just bought like a complete first edition base set, and I think you opened up a heavy pack, which was you pulled a Hitmonchan, if I remember correctly. Um,
Yeah, we pulled the Hitmonchan that day.
yeah. How did that
I
connection
graded it.
happen?
So I had known about him being in Dallas for a while, and I was going up there for a pretty large collection purchase at the time. So I reached out and I figured, if he wants to do a video, that'd be cool. I
Hmm.
was planning on opening that pack regardless, so I figured, I may as well reach out. And he was super nice. He was like, "Yeah, I'd love to do a video." We came in and we shot the video, and then I've pretty much kept in touch ever since, and I've done a couple other videos with him, and I send him stuff occasionally.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty good friends with him now, so Anytime there's news or something, I'll let him know, and he'll let me know too. So it's
Well,
cool.
he actually just posted on his Instagram story, and I texted him, but he didn't respond. He said his baby's coming home. Have you heard anything yet? I mean, this is gonna go up after his video post, but did he get his Charizard back?
Well, I actually haven't had time today. This week has been very busy, so
Okay.
I haven't asked him about it.
All right. Well, this is
But if I had to guess, that would probably be what it is.
okay. Yeah, same. I'm not sure yet. And this again, this has probably come after, well after the video he posts, but I really hope he gets that back because that is devastating. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's interesting because I sold him the pack that Charizard was pulled from.
Oh, really? Was that from like that same collection purchase that you opened the Hitmonchan from?
No, it was actually he bought half a box of base first edition from me,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 7, 8 months ago. And he's been opening the heavies from that box. So I believe the
Yeah.
Charizard, the Chansey are all from that box.
Okay, because he's been ripping those things like crazy. He's had to have opened close to 150, $200,000 worth of packs this month for the Nami charity videos he's doing, which I think he broke 100K already, and then Logan Paul broke
Yeah,
100K, so it's been worth it. But man, he has been ripping through those things like crazy, and I've got one left, and I've been telling myself forever that I'm going to open it, but I think they're like a 40, $50,000 pack almost at this point, which people are going to hate me for saying that, but realistically, that's where it's headed, and I can't open it anymore. I just can't.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think that it's a good idea to open the pack because I mean, we're talking about life-changing money for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Like $35,000 from something that you maybe got it for 2 or 3 grand a
yeah.
couple years back.
Hmm.
So like that sort of money is probably, half a year's salary or a third of a year's salary,
Yeah,
maybe a year's salary for some people.
yeah. And I just quit my
It's gotten to the
job,
point
so.
where, yeah. Well, there you go.
But yeah, I did get two heavy shadowless packs, which I think I need to open I want to open them, and I think I just need to do it quick before they like go up in value too much, so I can have the heart to do so. I got those at a good deal, so I'd be okay with it. Um, but yeah, I met Leonhard at Worlds in DC for the first time, and I think I'll be having him on the podcast here soon. We just have to. He's crazy busy, obviously. Um, but
Yep.
speaking of Logan Paul as well, uh, we talked a little bit before we started recording, but he just posted a vlog buying a PSA 10 Charizard from Gary. But I want to get your thoughts on his entrance into the hobby and what you think. Uh, do you think that his impact is kind of the main cause of these prices going nuts again?
I wouldn't say it's the main cause, but he has had an effect on the hobby, and you just can't dispute that. Part of it is that box break. He brought in a lot of larger personalities like Gary V bought one, Graham Stephan.
Mr.
Uh,
Beast.
I'm trying not to laugh because collectibles guru name popped in my head,
Oh
and
God. I'm
that
gonna
guy, I just can't even.
I'm gonna edit that out. By the way, I'm gonna get rid of the sound so we don't even say it.
Yeah, I just can't even.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Logan Paul overall has had a positive effect
Mhm.
on the market if you have Pokemon cards
Yeah.
already. And if you're trying to collect, then you just won't be very happy.
Right.
It was going to happen either way. We see a lot of other celebrities also picking up things like Steve Aoki picked one up from Gary as well.
Hmm.
Uh,
Logic
I
just
mean,
bought one.
originally, I think Jeremy Padua was the first one.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say he's that
Start buying.
influential. He's just
Yeah.
a well-off business guy, a businessman, right? I mean, he's got attachments to Pokemon and whatnot, and he's been on some shows, but the influential part doesn't hit me very hard with him. But I think he's having an impact, especially on Japanese stuff, Top Sun and Pikachu's especially. Um, but yeah, Logic just bought one. Uh, I was actually I was actually on the phone with him while he was bidding on it, trying to figure
Interesting.
out. He didn't know about the buyer's premium and all that, so he was a little upset about that. But I was like, dude, you don't have to worry about it with this card; you'll be
Uh,
fine. So um,
yeah,
that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, I yeah,
I think the main change is just that we've had a lot of big people in the hobby before, but more behind the scenes.
hmm
You know, it's not like, a month ago was the first time a multimillionaire or, whatever, 50 million, 100 million entered this hobby. It's just the first time that it's happening extremely publicly, someone with
right.
millions of followers. And I don't necessarily think that that means, hundreds of millions of people are now diving into Pokemon.
hmm
But it is showing that Pokemon is an established hobby at this point, and that people are willing to spend the money on it. My big issue with that, it's not really an issue. It's more of just kind of the direction that I'm planning to move myself, is that I don't know how many more buyers we have at this price point at this current point in time.
hmm
I'm not saying that Charizard's not going to hit $1 million, but I just think we're too early.
Yeah.
So in 10 years, when the average wealth the of our age range that are attached to the vintage Pokemon can afford it, I think it will hit $1 million. But right now, there's not that many. There's more Charizards out there, in my opinion, than people who are willing to pay that price tag for it to keep doubling up.
Yeah. No, I that's perfectly well put. I think we saw these prices. They make sense. We can complain about it all we want, but they make sense. And yeah, I think this influx of people has just expedited that increase to today, where I thought it would be 2030. And like you said, um, the real, I guess, broad aspect of collectors and buyers, that bigger buyer pool, is getting priced out. Like who's next? Who's going to buy from Logan Paul? Who has more money than Logan Paul to buy this thing? There's a couple people out there, obviously, but um, we're gonna have to. I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer for us to hit a higher peak income rate, to be able to get back into the market and start buying again on a bigger level, on a higher level. So yeah, I think
Yeah. I
that's
mean, you also have to consider that a lot of people who currently have positions in these Charizards or, base first edition in whatever set that you want to choose that has gone up 5 or 10x,
hmm
they're into it for just astronomically low prices. The majority, I'm not saying everyone.
hmm
And it's going to hit a point where it makes sense to sell. Like when we hit that 200K mark, we saw several Charizards come up on the market and start moving.
hmm
I think in the past 2 weeks, we've seen, it's got to be 4 or 5 PSA 10 Charizards switch hands,
yeah,
which, if you're into the card for, let's just say that you got in a year ago at 50K,
right,
which most people have had them for much longer. When 50K turns into 250K, that's a lot of incentive to sell.
that's
And
life
all it really
changing.
takes, yeah, exactly. That's multiple years of working for some people.
hmm
And all it really takes is, 5 or 10 people to want to sell the card at one time.
right,
And there not be enough buyers to fill that demand at that price point.
right, and like you said, the most people that have it are in it at such a lower cost basis at the prices they're selling them. Most of these people, at least the ones that I know, they won't be able to buy it back. I mean, unless something dramatic changes in their lives. But most of these people that I know, they're teachers, they're salesmen, they're whatever. They're, they make a healthy, a comfortable living, But spending $250,000 on a Pokemon card is not going to be financially responsible for them at any point. Um, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's this type of money is setting kids up basically for retirement, and it's like we can't ignore it. It's so hard to pass that up.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have seen some bigger cards sell, but at the same time, it's not, and I'm talking about sell within the existing community,
Hmm.
but a lot of times that's not one collector that just had 250K in his back pocket and he just tosses it on the table. It's that all of the cards have gone up and he sells his position in something
Hmm.
to make a separate purchase within the same hobby.
Yeah.
So, short of that short lag where, he's selling off one thing to purchase another, he's basically, it's almost like a trade. It's not like he's just pulling out a huge wad of cash and throwing it on the table.
Right.
And I think that it's not that Pokemon is going to crash or anything. I think it's more of the higher end stuff is going to hit a plateau
Hmm.
and the lower end stuff is going to slowly catch up. I think nines are already very high for a nine. For the population of a nine, although that is inflated because people crack,
Hmm.
there's still a lot of nines out there. And it being, what is it now, like 65, 70K PSA 9?
Well, one I think one sold for 42 or 46, but yeah, they're listed at 60. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if there were
It,
sales.
it's at a high
What
enough price point that,
the Beckett 9 sold for 60 on PWCC. So
yeah, I can't believe that got paid. Talk about an expensive 3 seconds.
yeah,
There's 3 second difference between the 28K and the 60K, and they both got paid.
yeah. And
So,
I
but
mean, it took a while,
the
but
thing is, like,
yeah, the price point caught up at that point. It's like the guy wanted to I don't know what he was doing. He was buying the futures or something, and it worked out for him. He bought the calls at a certain price point and decided to take it out of the market and pay for it finally.
it's funny because, like, watching the different items get paid, there were 4 Mewtwo's on auction, uh, 3 PSA 9s, base first edition, and one auction for 25, one auction for 31, and one auction for 45. And the 25 one got paid immediately. The 31, I think it was about a week and a half later, it got paid for once the Mewtwo started climbing on the market. And then after the Logan Paul video, the 4,500 one got paid for.
Yeah.
And then Charizard as well. I don't think it would have gotten paid if Logan Paul didn't do the break and we didn't see, Steve Aoki buy one and
Hmm.
multiple sales of the 10 at, 200K plus.
Right.
So it's fascinating that people are kind of using PWCC as like, let me bid on this and then I'll wait to see.
Right.
2 weeks is a long time in the current market, which it's hilarious to say, but yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's something that I just sold a PSA 8 unlimited Zard for $2,000, which is it's crazy, right? But yeah, things are getting. I don't know where this rubber band effect is going to stop. I mean, like you said, the top end stuff is going to plateau. Is that going to scare people on? Is that going to allow, like you said, is that going to allow the mid tier stuff to catch up, the nines and eights to catch up, or is that going to scare people and is that going to cause a drop? I mean, obviously we don't know, but um, that's something to think about.
Yeah, so you said a very good point is that, we don't know the future. There's so many factors. Like if you asked me a month ago if Logan Paul was gonna, open this box and things were gonna, I mean, we passed the moon at this point,
Hmm.
go to Jupiter. I would have never guessed. That's not where I would have placed my bet.
Hmm.
But my opinion in the current market is that there is room for the lower end base first stuff to grow because base first at the end of the day is a very iconic set. And I think people are going to want to acquire it regardless of the grade, whether it's a binder copy, whether it's, a set that's graded in low grades.
Hmm.
So I think the lower end stuff is going to rise until it fills the demand. Even now, we don't see very many lower end base first hollows on eBay, and when they are there, there's quite a bit of competition.
Yeah, I've been buying as
Whereas
many as I
nine,
can.
yeah, last I checked, there was I think 4 or 5 PSA 9
Hmm.
base first edition Charizards on eBay right now,
Hmm.
which is more than the lower pop. There's a couple like astronomically priced like fours and fives in like the 20K range, but
Yeah.
a reasonably priced low grade base first edition hollows are just disappearing.
Hmm.
And I think that's where the market's moving. And base unlimited makes no sense to me. Just hands down, I don't understand. That has got to be the largest printed vintage, or I know it's the largest printed vintage set,
Hmm.
or
Well, there.
who knows? There could be more base unlimited, and there could be Steam Siege.
Yeah.
We don't know the print run numbers, but they
There's
printed that thing forever.
right, and there. Well, there's that conversation of people being nostalgic towards the unlimited set because that's what they had. I've talked about this with Magic the Gathering of, why do so many people want alpha when they were all playing with unlimited? There was only kids don't remember alpha. Only 1,100 people could remember alpha because that's how many were printed. And
Well, you have to consider though, part of collecting is chasing the dream.
hmm.
And the fact that people could not obtain base first edition as a kid is alluring.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for me. When I first started, I found out about it and I was like, well, I guess I got to complete this set because I didn't have it as a kid.
Yeah.
And you're always going to have that huge gap between base unlimited, base first edition, and then, shadowless somewhere on the lower end
Hmm.
uh, behind the first edition. But it just doesn't make sense to me how high the base Charizards are.
Hmm.
Like the unlimited ones, there are people with hundreds of copies of base unlimited Charizards,
Hmm.
whether they're graded, raw, or whatnot, and they're leaking them into the market.
Hmm.
The people with that kind of position in cards are not just dumping them.
Right.
But they've gotten so expensive, and I for one, it blows my mind, but that's where we are these days.
Hmm.
And part of it is because a lot of the publicity has been on base set.
Right.
You don't really see Logan Paul talking about Jungle, Fossil, Sky Ridge. The focus is base set, and that's why we're seeing this spike because everyone who's watching the videos can't afford the base first edition.
Hmm.
But they're like, "Oh, I can there's other base sets." And the thing that I hate the most is the proxies have started selling really fast. I'm not a fan of Logan Paul.
Hmm.
I don't hate him. I don't like him. I'm
Hmm.
just indifferent.
Hmm.
But I hate the fact that he posted a fake illustrator on Instagram.
Yeah, me too. I
And it's not even the fact that it was for a joke. I hate the effect that it's going to have on the market because they're going to be kids or like people who are going to go online and search it and they're going to make the purchase.
and they have
They're going to buy the
since
proxy
then.
because they either think it's cool or maybe they missed the second Instagram story or maybe they think they're getting a steal.
Hmm.
You know, for someone that public to post a fake proxy, knowingly post it
Hmm.
as a prank, it just God, that was so bad for the hobby.
Yeah.
Yes, it brought media attention, but I would have rather not had that attention on the hobby.
Right. And it's so I've talked to him briefly. I haven't sold him anything, and he's talking to a lot of other people. But um, even with my other dealings of people, like I mentioned, Logic, it's I've had these conversations with these guys, and I'm sure other people have of moving in silence. And you mentioned that earlier. Of there's been these people in the background for a long time, and they're hurting them. Like Logan, he hurt himself with that, which is just a dumb move in my opinion of posting something a fake card like that. He hurt himself. He could have went out and bought a real one and done incredibly well on it. But now that there's this fake one out, and that's going to inevitably expand to other things, other proxies, which of course we've seen. Yeah, it hurts the market. It's just not. I mean, I think I saw the other day someone had a resealed base set box with the Wizards logo on it, and it looked incredible. Like it looked nice. I mean, you could peek right in the box and see that it was resealed, but I don't know at which point it got, who handed it off last. But um, yeah, things are getting to the point where it's scary to make purchases, especially with the amount of value there's attached to it.
Well, Pokemon for the longest time was at a point where it wasn't worth counterfeiting
Hmm.
and resealing. But recently, we've gotten more things like I had an eBay purchase that I made where the card was priced low. It was Lucky Stadium, New York Pokemon Center promo.
Hmm.
And it was priced low, but not super low. We're talking like maybe 75% of market, and it looked really good conditioned
The English
on the
version, of
listing.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made the purchase, and then after I received it, you couldn't tell if it was in the top loader, and I just kind of got it. I threw it on the table because I was busy, and then a week later, I actually took it out of the top loader, and I could feel that it was heavier and thicker.
Hmm.
The color was slightly off, but to someone who's new to the hobby, you wouldn't even know. And the fact that these things are now being faked is going to put off some people who are trying to get in. Whether it's, they're, some teacher that watches Logan Paul's video because his kids do, and he's like, oh, Pokemon, let me get back into this, goes online, buys a fake Charizard. If his first experience is buying something that's fake, he's probably not coming back to the hobby.
Hmm.
And most people don't start with a lot of research. Most people just kind of dive right in because it's an emotional response that they have to Pokemon. It's not like people do, and 1,000 hours of research and say, I'm going to come into this as an investment. The majority of collectors start through an emotional response.
And that's
And
the reason why I
it's,
like Gary Vee, because he pushes that, doing research before buying in. I mean, he still pushes some questionable statements with Pokemon, but he's very focused on that research part, and I like that he is, he spreads that to everybody. I think he says that in almost every little video clip I see of him. But yeah, those proxy
yeah.
Charizards they're
And,
selling for two, three, $400, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
yeah. And that's the issue. A lot of people might receive them and not even know that they're fake.
Hmm.
Like if you've never held one in your hand before, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Right, and when it gets to the point where they're buying they're dropping the $50,000 on a box or $200,000 on a Charizard that isn't real, that can affect people on a greater level than just their bank account. I just recorded a podcast yesterday with Colors about there's I don't know how familiar you are with the pre-release Raichu, but we talked about a story involving that, and um, it inevitably led to someone's their passing because of. I mean, there was other factors, but that was something that emotionally crushed the guy and financially crushed the guy, and it leads to terrible things. So as little as a fake card can be, it can have a lot of a lot of negative effect on someone's life and all of our lives because it's a hobby we all enjoy and we don't want to see it crumble.
Yeah. I mean, segueing, like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but, everything is relative.
Mm.
And $500 today might not seem like a lot to, you or I, because we're used to dealing with larger numbers
Hmm.
in the last 6 months. But someone just entering the hobby, $500 could be their spending money for the whole month, maybe 2 months, and people think when yeah, the new PS5 came out and people were complaining about prices. Oh, it's $550 or $499. I don't even know what
Yeah.
price it was, but like that's like getting a proxy Charizard for the same price as a PS5. Like if you told me, 5 years ago that I could trade like just a base first edition Raw Charizard for a PS4, I probably would have done that.
Yeah.
And now the proxies are selling for that price, and people are just losing out because they don't even know to open a claim.
Mm-hmm.
But the good news is that the climate moving forward is more heavily focused on grading and authentication,
Mm-hmm.
which will help alleviate some of the issues. And a lot of the people who are buying the raw cards and grading, they're more familiar with the hobby. And at the end of the day, if you're very familiar and just in the hobby deeper, when you hold a proxy in your hand or a fake card, you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't gotten to that point yet. Boxes are still difficult. I know there was a Skyridge box that someone came to me about, and they asked me what my opinion was, and I was unsure. I said it's 50-50. Something irks me about it. I was like, I would not pay cash for it. The only way that you ever pay cash on it is if he's willing to open it on the spot, and if it's good, then you hand him the cash.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then you just walk away.
Yeah.
And that person ended up walking away. And 2 days later, I saw someone else post a complaint because he bought the box and he opened it and it was junk. It was resealed.
Yeah. I mean, I think the red flag there was it was like a 8,000. He was asking like 8 grand for a Skyridge box too, right? Which is a red flag
Yeah,
on its
when
own.
it's too good to be true, it's not always the case, but a majority of the case, there's some issue there.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's always been my worry with the first edition base because that's very, very hard to authenticate. And like I would always tell myself, like if I bought this, I'd have to do it that way, where the seller's got to open it and we got to authenticate it that way. So, um,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah.
will tell you that if I buy a first edition base booster box, I would either have to know the complete history of it,
Mm-hmm.
and preferably it would be from the original owner, either a WotC employee or someone with the original receipt,
Mm-hmm.
or I would open it on the spot
Yeah.
because I'm just not willing to risk, no matter how good you are at identifying boxes. You can check the weight, you can check the tightness of the wrap, you can check how the seal looks, you can check if there's any inside marks on the box, or if the flap ever looks like it's been bent upwards. But at the end of the day, if someone is very, very good, they can reseal it.
Mm-hmm.
They can open the packs, they can replace it with the same number of cards.
Hit the
Like
same
the
weight.
weight would
Yeah.
almost be the exact same.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we even saw that in Gem Mint Pokemon box in like 2017 or 16, and he did that back then to authenticate it because I mean, sure, I think it was 10 or 15,000 then. Still an incredible sum of money, but yeah, that's how he did it even back then. And now, if you're doing it with $250,000, I feel like that's what you have to do, almost, which is even tougher because it's sealed boxes, sealed product are a completely separate collectible at this point. It's the card, it's the cards themselves, it's the packs themselves, it's the boxes themselves, and they have different price points. I mean, maybe there's some correlation, but to me, they're separate collectibles now. Um, do you want to discuss PWCC at all, or wait on that?
In what way?
Kangaskhan. We can wait. Oh, we should wait. We should probably wait on it, or not.
So I can say that I'm working on the Kangaskhan, but I don't really want to discuss details
Yeah.
until I come to a resolution on it.
Okay. We'll leave this out then. Um,
Yeah.
so, well, damn, I think we covered just about everything then, and we're an hour in. I want to circle back real quick to your Chinese collection here. Um, I've recently gotten into trophy cards, mainly Japanese ones, very small scale, but I know there's a few Chinese trophy cards. Have you dived into those? Have you gotten those yet? I think there's like a Giratina Rayquaza, or there's like the masked like wrestler guy one. Isn't there Chinese versions of those?
So you're actually talking about Korean ones.
Oh, that's right. Because they have
I
Japanese,
actually have the
Korean.
Rayquaza Giratina. The mask, I don't even remember the full name of the card. Mask Wrestler, something like that. But I don't like that card at all.
Yeah.
There's a very low number of them printed, but as a trophy card, it just doesn't do anything for me. It just looks like a normal full art trainer, like the Lily Japanese Battle Day promo. That's understandable. It's desirable art, but the Mask Wrestler or whatever,
Hmm.
it checks one box, and that's rarity,
Right.
but nothing else is going for that card.
Okay. So there's not really
And
any big prize cards, I guess, in Chinese.
so, let's see. If I go off on a rant, just cut me off. But Chinese is interesting because when they first released it with base set, it wasn't very popular in Taiwan and Hong Kong.
Hmm.
So the print run was relatively short. There was a lot of product that was left over, which I was still finding boxes in last year. Uh, Honestly, a lot of that product was shipped overseas.
Hmm.
Every single Chinese first edition box that I have found has been from the US. And it's
Interesting.
all from people who were buying foreign languages when they first came out. And I haven't been able to locate a single one in Hong Kong or Taiwan.
Wow.
But because of the low demand after base set, Pokemon stopped printing Chinese. So for base set, Pokemon has the Machamp starter deck, they have the four theme decks, and then they have base set unlimited and first edition. And
Hmm.
that's all of the Chinese product that was ever printed for base set. Um, After that, they stopped printing Pokemon in Chinese until Legend Maker.
Oh,
And
wow. We all
that's
know
the
those.
point where they decided to give it a second shot.
Yeah.
And as you probably guessed, that crashed and burned.
Yeah.
Chinese Legend Maker is also a fascinating story because there was just not a lot of it on the market because it wasn't very popular. And then someone was tracking Legend Maker and they got to the original distributor and he had a warehouse
Hmm.
with it was a couple thousand boxes and he
Cases.
sold those boxes. Yeah, I don't know how many cases, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
thousands of boxes,
Okay.
so hundreds of cases. Those came 18 to a case,
I
for
think I think 20.
12 to a case. Maybe.
12. I thought it was
I don't
20.
remember.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've opened a
Hmm.
case, but he sold them all for $10 a box, and we saw just massive amounts of Legend Maker hit the market, and it just tanked the prices. For the
Hmm.
longest time, you could get boxes shipped to the US for $25, $30.
Hmm.
And then people just opened it for fun.
Yep.
Like the pull ratio in Legend Maker is absolute trash.
Hmm.
It's every 5 packs you get either a hollow or an EX,
Hmm.
and the average was one box had four hollows and one EX. 20, it might be every 6 packs because there's 24 packs per box. So
Wow.
it was three hollows and one EX. The gold star pull ratio was 1 in 18 boxes
Yeah.
versus the US 1 in 2.
Jeremy and
So
I,
you,
Swopoke, while we were sitting in the Fukuda line in Dallas, some guy had like 30 Chinese Legend Maker packs, and we bought them all for like $2 each. They were weighed, so we pulled absolutely nothing, or we just had terrible luck. But yeah, Chinese Legend Maker has a bad history.
yeah, I don't know what Pokemon was thinking, but they like the pull ratios were trash. The desirable cards were extremely hard to pull. Like they could have chosen any other EX set and it would have been better than Legend Maker.
Hmm.
That being said, there are some notable cards like Mew EX, Arcanine EX,
Hmm.
even the regular Hollow Mew has amazing art. I'm actually not a fan of the Regis in terms of gold stars, but
The worst.
They're gold stars at the end of the day.
And they're the ones that I got signed by Fukuda
And
for some reason. I don't know why.
well, I mean, a lot of people do like the Reggies.
Yeah.
It's just personally, I'm not a big fan of them, and it might be because I've always liked the dogs more.
Yep.
I'm a dog person.
Yeah, I had that
Um,
conversation with Dizzle in my last podcast. Yeah.
but yeah, so Chinese Legend Maker was a giant flop, got flooded into the market, and then now that everyone was just opening it, there's the stock has disappeared.
Yeah.
There's maybe 5 or 6 boxes sealed on eBay.
Oh wow.
I know of a couple collectors with, maybe 15, 20 boxes, like a case or two here and there, but
Hmm.
it's basically dried up. And even the packs, which used to sell for $1 or two each, they're now at $20 an art set, which
Wow.
is a significant improvement.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny because the Legend Maker booster boxes and packs were opened a lot, but the theme decks are almost always left out of the conversation. And the theme decks have Minum and Pulsel. That's how you say it.
Plusle? Pulsel?
Yeah,
Plus?
Pulsel.
Yeah.
However you pronounce it,
I'm
but
Gen 1er, so yeah.
great art, and I've always liked those more.
Okay.
Um, but segueing on, like the last year, Chinese Pokemon has started being printed in modern.
Uh,
And we saw that with 4 Hidden Fate sets. Originally, it was something from the Stars, set A and B.
mm.
And then the second set was released. So sorry, it's hard to get this all phrased, but they basically released Hidden Fates and all of the Sun and Moon block into 4 different boxes in Chinese.
Similar to Japanese.
So Japanese, you had Ultra Shiny GX, where you
Uh-huh.
had all of Hidden Fates in a single set.
Oh.
Chinese, you had 4 different sets, and
Oh.
each one had it
Wow.
was like a mishmash. Like
Was that fun to
it's like
open?
if you took Sun and Moon and boiled it down and then mashed it and then just threw it into different boxes.
Was
So
that
like
fun
it
to
had
open?
like Burning Shadows, it had Ultra Prism, it had Hidden Fates, like it was a mix of everything.
Hmm.
Um, the cool thing is with Chinese, they're doing things that they just haven't done in English before. Like they released the Battle Day promos in Chinese
Oh.
inside of a set, which we hadn't seen that before. That was a prize card in Japan,
Hmm.
and China got a printing, and I bought a ton of them because the art looks so good, and it's such a cheaper alternative. I was picking them up for like 40, $50, and the Japanese ones were like 7, 800. Same art. And it's cool because the Chinese sets have English backs.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So,
A little
yeah,
bit.
it's quite different from Japanese. It's like it's fun to collect.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I am with Chinese. I don't collect the modern as much just
Okay.
because the older stuff has been so hard to finish.
Yeah.
But Chinese Pokemon fascinates me, and Pokemon has been doing some insane collaborations with China as well. I don't know if you know about the Razer mouse and keyboard,
No.
but so here I have the mouse. The keyboard is the
Oh,
mouse.
sweet.
It's done by Razer, and it was a collaboration that was only released in mainland China.
Hmm.
But there's a keyboard that goes along with it, and it's like Pikachu themed. They also did Razer wireless headphones
Yeah.
that were Pikachu themed, and they came in a Pokeball charger.
Oh, that's cool.
Uh, that was super cool. And now Pokemon's collaborating with Tencent, which blows my mind. I never thought that would happen, but they're
Yeah.
making a MOBA for Pokemon.
That's right. And Tencent owns Riot, I believe, or League of Legends.
Yes,
Um,
Tencent owns Riot.
yeah. So that's exciting. That's going to be out on the Switch. Are you going to play? We need to get a squad together.
I'm gonna play. I don't know how much time I'll have, but
Yeah.
I do want to test it out. And what I'm really looking forward to is Pokemon is opening up to mainland China
Hmm.
as a company, which they've always avoided. And the fact that they're willing to collaborate means that we might get, maybe the trading card game to mainland China.
Hmm.
And China has a lot of people.
Yeah.
Let's just be straightforward.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, there are a lot of people who like Pokemon in China. You still get bootleg stuff in China all the time. And it would be really nice to see people being able to collect legitimate cards in China, or even a competitive scene. That'd be
Right.
awesome too.
Yeah, that could change things again with just the sheer size of the country and population. That's something that, I mean, there's companies that are built on that. They they build themselves on chasing the Chinese market. So adding that into a monster of Pokemon could be bigger than this Logan Paul craze. To be honest, I mean, who
Yeah.
knows?
That being said, I need to finish collecting my base set before they get in, or else
Yeah,
I'm never gonna finish that collecting goal.
yeah, get that done. Get that done. All right. Well, we're just over an hour here, and I think we talked about a lot of things. I'm sure we could go on forever, but I'd like to save that for a part two. So, um, I just want to appreciate you being available and joining my podcast here. I'm very happy to talk with you, and um, of course, I'll be seeing you on Discord and looking forward to seeing more collection purchases that you have. Do you have an Instagram or eBay you want to shout out? I don't remember who has Instagrams anymore.
Uh, my Instagram, I don't really accept too many people because it's mostly like personal. I don't post
Oh,
much Pokemon.
then we'll leave that out then.
But I have an eBay.
What is the
I'll just type it. You can just put it wherever.
I was gonna throw it up on how do I don't want to show things. Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I am a boomer. I can just blur out the chat if I need to. All right. There it is. All right. I wanna show it up here. See if you have anything cool up here real quick. But yeah, I just want to thank you again for joining and sharing your story and um, telling us more about the Chinese Pokemon market, because I think that's something that not a lot of people are thinking about at the moment. And um, again, yeah, it could be a little bit market changing. I know we didn't get into the trophies too much, but we do see a second place 2010 Pika Trophy here. We'll save that for next time. But yeah, thank you again, Nate, for doing this with me. I really appreciate it, and I guess we'll see you guys next time.